By the time our baby was due, we were fully prepared. Even the entire dowry, regardless of prejudices, was bought. And not only a dowry. The maternity hospital, the doctor was carefully chosen. The husband agreed with everyone, almost with the guard of the parking lot near the hospital. Just kidding, of course. We have been waiting for him for almost 10 years. We have almost lost hope. The only person my husband could not agree with was me. For no money did she agree to stay in the hospital for preservation, believing that houses and walls help. Yes, and I felt great. Even toxicosis did not get much. My poor husband had to tremble for 9 months, but now our torment was coming to an end. The date of the planned birth was set, the bag with the necessary things was collected and all that. The day before, I was suddenly seized by a vague anxiety. My heart ached, although I did not experience any pain or discomfort. Therefore I decided to call my friend who had already 3 times had the good fortune to visit the maternity hospital, leaving from there with a lace bag. Tanya, tell me, is this the usual anxiety of an inexperienced woman in labor or something else? I asked with a nervous laugh. And then I have this brand new. It never happened. How would you like it? It would be more surprising if you were calm like a tank. Everyone is absolutely worried, nervous, and not only for the first time. I personally am in the third with fear, as if I gave birth for the first time. But don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. Drink warm milk at night and calm down. When was the birth scheduled? Yes, I'm going in 5 days, I said. Do you want me to come tomorrow? I'll bake your favorite Charlotte, Tanya asked. I smiled. Well, that's it. Agreed. I'll be there for tea, kisses, and I love you. After calming down, I went to bed. The husband was already snoring with the remote control in his hands, without having finished watching the movie. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, the anxiety returned. I woke up with the feeling that I was dreaming of something bad, but she couldn't remember exactly what. I went to the kitchen to drink water when I felt pain in the lower abdomen and my panties began to get wet quickly from moisture. The water is breaking. It went like a whirlwind in my head. I should have listened to my husband and at least lie down in the hospital for the last week. I returned to the bedroom as quickly as possible and began to wake my husband. He did not immediately understand when he woke up, and when it came, he surprisingly calmly and clearly began to get ready. We will not wait for an ambulance. I'll take you myself. I'll get there faster, my husband said, dressing hastily. Then he helped me grab the bag and we were ready to go. Don't be afraid. He kissed my nose. I'll be waiting in the lobby. Everything will be fine. I will not describe further turmoil. I will only say that soon I was clutching my precious son to my chest and considered myself the happiest woman in the world. When I was taken to the ward, the nurse somehow looked guiltily and said, "Excuse me, but at the moment there is only the 13th of the single rooms." So what? I wondered. What difference does it make? Is she in a normal state? Will the child be with me? Yes, of course, the nurse said hastily. But I am not superstitious. I love black cats. I am not afraid of empty buckets, and 13 is generally my favorite number, if that's what you mean. The main thing is that the ward is comfortable and my son is there. That's all. After saying nothing, the nurse drove me to the ward and opened the door. Inside it was clean and comfortable as a hospital can be. There was already a huge bouquet of my favorite roses on the bedside table. Smiling, I tenderly pronounced the name of my husband. A small bed was next to mine. Soon my baby was brought in. Although I spent a sleepless night and was terribly tired, I could not get enough of him. I could not believe that finally the long-awaited child was here nearby. Only after dinner I was overtaken by a dream. Again in a dream a feeling of anxiety appeared, a feeling of some kind of danger, but I just could not understand what it was. So much food that you can't eat it in a week. I don't want to hear anything. My friend was indignant in response to my request to leave exactly half. You have to feed your son. In addition, everything is very tasty and light. Look, chicken broth, steamed cutlets, and for dessert the Charlotte that I promised my husband brought a bunch of fruits and juices. In general, they left only when they admired the baby and forced me to eat a little. I lay down on the bed and took out my phone, probably from already torn from messages. This is true. Relatives, friends and colleagues hurried to congratulate, sent cute postcards. I need to answer and thank everyone, but first I'll call my mother. She is still worried, even though her husband has already called her. In order not to wake my son, I went into the hall next to the ward and sat down in an easy chair by the window. There were already several women there. Someone, apparently, like me, accepted congratulations and answered. I called my mother and in an undertone told her everything. She kept silent only about her anxiety, did not want to frighten in vain because everything is in order. The birth was easy. The baby is healthy. One of the women sitting across from me suddenly got up and walked over to me. Sorry, I involuntarily overheard your conversation and I want to warn you before trouble happens. You need to leave that room, somewhere else." I looked at her dumbfounded. "What did you say?" Exclamation mark. "Why should I leave?" Exclamation mark. "You gave birth after many years to the long-awaited child, right?" the woman asked. "Well, yes," I answered. "And what does the ward have to do with it?" "Let us go to the end of the corridor," the woman suggested, looking around at the others. We stepped aside, and she told me incredible things. "I'm here for the 4th time," the woman began her story. "We have 3 sons, and my husband really wanted a daughter. I had to take a chance, although the age is not young anymore. Thank God." Then to ask only about health. "So," she continued, "when I gave birth here for the 2nd time an accident happened. One of the women lost her baby in her sleep. The child was very desirable since she was no longer young for childbirth. Approaching 40 years old. The kid died in his sleep and the doctors did not know why. I still remember how she sobbed, what a hysteria she was. Then she seemed to calm down, or maybe they injected something into her. It was quiet at night and in the morning they found her in the ward with her veins cut. Horrible." "What happened next?" "Her husband was a big boss. He arranged such a thing here. They fired almost half of the maternity hospital. Even television came. Maybe heard? It happened 10 years ago." "No," I muttered. "We moved out of town 7 years ago." "Well, then everything calmed down and it began to be forgotten. The boss got married and even brought his wife to the same maternity hospital. Had enough conscience. She gave birth safely and soon they forgot about it. And some time later the child died again. Strangely, the long-awaited boy died as in that case, and what is even more interesting, the woman giving birth said that at night she saw a white figure in the ward, who was sitting near the baby's bed, singing something affectionately, like a lullaby. And then she got up, took the baby in her arms and went to door. The woman screamed, turned on the light but did not see anyone. The child slept peacefully in the crib. She thought she had a terrible dream, lay back and fell asleep. And in the morning she found her baby dead. This time there was no noise. The doctors said that he had a congenital disease and that they supposedly warned her. It was true. A couple more years passed, and the same incident happened again. The boy who was long awaited died again, and in the same ward. "Guess which one?" she asked me. "Woman." And again the mother of this child saw a ghost that takes her baby away. I silently looked at her, digesting what I heard. "Are you saying that this happened in my room?" I asked. "Yes, exactly, in the 13th, and the first case and the other 2. I think you are in danger now, or rather your child. You need to ask for another ward, but now there are no single rooms. And I want to be close to my child." "Yes, and none of the staff didn't tell me anything about it." "Well, of course no one will say. Why ruin your reputation? And it doesn't happen every day. It can be attributed to a coincidence. It is up to you. I just wanted to warn you." The woman returned back to the hall and I went to my room, reflecting on what I had heard. On the one hand, what ghosts? I am a modern sane person and I do not believe in such nonsense. And on the other hand, a woman does not look like a servant or a dreamer. She spoke calmly and confidently. "Yes, and my disturbing dreams were remembered." I decided to go to the head of the department and ask for another ward. The manager turned out to be a pleasant woman in her 50s. Hearing my request, she was surprised. "What does not suit you?" "The ward is good, recently renovated." I hesitated, not knowing what to answer. "Have you heard of a ghost?" She threw up her hands. "Well, you are an adult and not a stupid-looking person. We had such cases, I will not deny, but I assure you, infant mortality in any maternity hospital happens. Unfortunately, ours is not the worst but perhaps the best in the city. But it's not ghosts that are to blame for this, but either genetics or a woman's careless attitude towards her health or another completely scientific reason. And that poor crazy woman lost her baby because she took strong tranquilizers during pregnancy. The other gave birth almost at an advanced age for the first time. In general, the most ordinary things, no mysticism. In oncology hospitals, then in each ward there should be a ghost. People often die there. Did that woman really commit suicide?" I asked. The manager became a little gloomy, but answered, "It happened during my duty. She was the wife of a major local official. Her husband is much older, 15 years, it seems, but she loved him. The young wife did not refuse anything, carried in her arms, gave gifts. But several years passed and there were still no children. The husband began to show dissatisfaction, they say. I divorced the first one because she did not want to give birth and you seemed to be barren. Then it got worse. He began to appear less often at home. He returns drunk and carries other people's spirits for a kilometer. And good people reported that he had a young, beautiful mistress. They say she will give birth to a child for him, and he will divorce his wife." Nastia completely lost her peace. Nastia her name was, and that name suited her very well. Such a fragile, graceful blonde. She was probably well over 30 years old, but she looked like a girl. In general, she got hooked on tranquilizers. And suddenly God had mercy and gave the baby. Noticing my surprised look, the manager smiled. Did you think that doctors are all atheists? No, sometimes you see enough of this, except for the Immaculate Conception, that any doubts will disappear. Well, she gave birth to a boy and was in seventh heaven with happiness. My husband, to celebrate, showered everyone here with gifts, even nurses. I then worked as an ordinary doctor and just everything happened on my shift. It was a difficult night. They brought an ambulance to a woman with a difficult birth. They took her for a long time. I just lay down to take a nap as the nurse speaks with a patient from the 13th tantrum. I rushed there. I looked. She was beating on the floor in a fit. The nurse showed me with her eyes on the bed, and there the child was dead. Lord. They gave her an injection and called a psychologist. The child was sent to the morgue for an autopsy. I don't remember the exact conclusion of the pathologist, but it was connected with taking strong drugs. She seems to have managed to calm her down. They told her husband. He rushed in. A terrible scandal rolled. The head physician. Noise was all over the hospital. We did not want to let him go to her, but can you keep it? I don't know what they were talking about, but only after he left the poor thing opened her veins. Most likely he knew about the drugs that she was taking and accused her of the death of her son. Here is such a story. The other two cases are irrelevant. There were other reasons. All this happened a long time ago. There were many women in the sword in front of you and everything was fine. No ghosts bothered them. I hope I have reassured you. But if you want, then tomorrow I will move you to another room. Just 2 will be released. Unfortunately not today. I can only offer a bed and a 5-seater. No, thanks, I refused. I'll spend the night in this one, and tomorrow we'll see. Well, that's nice. The manager was delighted. Don't worry. You'll be fine. I am sure of it. Well, yes, the story is a nightmare, but it is quite real. No mysticism. Alas. It happens. Everything is logically explainable. I will not go anywhere and I will throw all nonsense out of my head. With these thoughts, she fed her son and went to bed. At night I woke up from a quiet hum, and turning to my son's bed, I was numb with horror. A woman in a white dress with long flowing hair was sitting on a chair next to her. With a bandaged hand she stroked my child's head, humming something. The other hand lay on top of the blanket. She quietly muttered, "My son, I will take you away from here." From horror I could not even move a finger, as if petrified. But then the woman stood up and leaned over the child, about to take him in her arms. I, throwing off my numbness by an effort of will, spoke to her. "Nastia, wait. Don't do this." The woman turned to me and whispered, "I'll take my baby. You can stop me. No one can interfere." "Stop!" I exclaimed in despair. "Nastia, this is not your child. I know everything. I feel sorry for you, but it is not your boy." "Where's my son?" she whispered. "Where is he? Tell me. Or do you want to deceive me?" "Everyone deceives me. They don't tell me where he is," she whispered, shaking her head sadly. "Your son was taken with him by your husband to be buried," I answered. "He is not here." The woman opened her eyes wide and incredulous. "Husband? Did he take him?" Yes, I exclaimed. "Ask your husband. Just please don't take my son." The woman moved away from the crib, looked back for a moment as if in doubt, but then went to the door, and passing through it, disappeared. And I jumped up and rushed to my son. Glory God, he was alive. Sobbing I sank to the floor in front of the bed, but in my heart I understood that everything worked out. The danger was over. In the morning, I still asked for another room, and it was provided to me immediately after treatment. The woman who told me this story, as it turned out, was discharged. I could not thank her. A few days later, my son and I were already at home. We are doing well. We are growing, gaining strength. The horror that I had to endure is gradually becoming a thing of the past. I tell no one about this. Didn't even tell my mom. I don't know why.